What's up, guys? Welcome to Nutmegged, the podcast where a Yank and a Brit talk about the beautiful game from across the pond. But today, not so, because everyone's across the pond. I've actually joined Faisal in London for our first ever episode together in the same room. But I am Andrew. I am still representing the Stars and Stripes. And of course, we have Faisal living up his best life in the UK.
Yes, I'm back, and we are currently in London town with Andrew, which is really exciting. Excited to get this in-person podcast filmed, recorded. Really excited. So, let's get the show on the road. Should we introduce our guests?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
So, to my left, we have my beautiful wife-to-be, Fifi. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Fifi. This is the first time that I've been in a podcast studio. I feel like I'm talking to an audience, but there's no one that I can see apart from you guys. It was really nice to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us. And now to my right is my actual wife, Rachel Schwalik. No, not my fake wife, not my third wife, my first and lovely wife. And tell us a little bit about yourself and your football experience.
Oh my goodness. Well, hello. I'm Rachel Schwalik, and I'm also honored to be here today. This is also my first time in a podcast studio, recording a podcast. And I'm really excited also to be in London with our wonderful guests. That's a little bit about me.
So what do you know about the sport of soccer for us Americans and football for the English folk here?
Well, I know that my husband adores the sport. All my knowledge does come through Andrew. It was pretty minimal and still probably is up until you started sharing a little bit of your passion for football, and Andrew's always referred to it as football, even though
Correct. That's
in the US.
See, I got you.
Well done. First tick there.
Yes. So I've always said football for the most part, unless we're trying to clarify with
The dang Americans.
fellow U.S. Americans, but have really grown to love the sport, especially as I've just learned more about football and have attended some Columbus Crew games back in our home state of Ohio, and also getting to experience my husband and his brother starting their own league, or not league, but your own club, and kind of seeing behind the scenes of that, and I've really grown to admire a lot of the work, but then also grown to just love the sport much more as well.
Well, to spill a little tea, she actually dated a college soccer player when we were at
Nice.
Walsh University together, and it wasn't me. So there's that. But she ended up marrying a college soccer player.
I guess
so
I have a thing for football players.
Football players.
yeah, can't blame you. So yeah. But now our other guest over here, Fifi.
So Fifi, talk us through it. So what is your relationship with football? What your thoughts?
So my relationship with football isn't that extensive. I've been to a couple of games in my life, not too many to be honest. And what I know about football is mainly through Faisal. We've been to a game. Which game was it?
England is a friendly game in Ivory Coast.
England and Ivory Coast at Wembley Stadium last year.
The Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Not many people. Big game.
Yeah, so that was a really amazing experience. The atmosphere was so nice. So that was very memorable. And other than that, what I know is through Faisal, who obviously supports Man United. And through him, I now own a Man United shirt as well, with
Beautiful.
my surname on the back of it.
We're working on it. We're trying to get the full United. It's growing. We'll make it work.
It's always a process. More fans, the better.
Yeah. I'm grown to know more about the sport, learn more about it, and I'm just following along really.
So I think my question to you is, who do you support?
Man United.
Thank you.
Very nice, very nice.
That was not rehearsed, by the way. Just saying.
When are you going to pay me?
So before Man United, did you support any other teams in general, or you were just kind of aware?
No, so I grew up in Birmingham, and there is quite a large team. I don't really know where they are in the league, but I wasn't a football supporter at all. A lot of my family support some of the other teams in the Premier League.
You can say their names, like Liverpool, unfortunately.
They mostly support Liverpool or Chelsea, but I've never really shown an interest in football, to be honest. But ever since I met Faisal, I do enjoy watching the matches. I watch them sometimes when they're on. So yeah. Otherwise, no, I haven't supported a game.
It's background telly for her, but I'm in the zone. I'm locked in. You know, every so often I'm like, oh, and sometimes I'm just like, I'll grab a like, oh my god, oh no, it's just so close. You're like, what is it?
To be fair, like at any point in time, I'll just throw a game on in the background, and just like if it's a random league that I don't even know, some lower league action, like if I'm just working and I can throw it on the TV, I'm always here for that. But same question to you, Rachel. What teams do you currently support? Have you supported other teams?
Well, I feel like I should follow suit and say, like my husband, I am a Man United fan. However, I would say something probably more realistic is our team back in Ohio, the Columbus Crew. I'm definitely an avid Crew supporter, and I know it's not in the Premier League, correct? But Hull City is a team that I've grown to really enjoy. We actually, during our stay in England, were able to see a Hull City game, and long story short, kind of tracing back to some family roots and the whole area. It means something to Andrew and therefore means something to me. So I think Hull City is definitely right along with the Columbus Crew and Manchester United. So then that's pretty much the extent of my
Well, there are so many teams and so many leagues out there as well. So I kind of follow the same way too. Like I'm a Man United fan, but I'm also like a Hull City fan. Celtic are pretty cool. Our hometown, the Columbus Crew are great. Of course, Delaware Rising, the minor league team that we have. So there's a lot of different clubs that you can be interested in and follow in. So that's what I do. But yeah, so we saw a Hull City game live. That was your first English football experience. Wow. You want to tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that one?
Oh, it was amazing. Definitely a different football culture in, the UK as opposed to America. I mean, we've been to a US national men's game, and that was probably more similar to the Hull City game than, for example, some of the Columbus Crew games that we've been to. But during that game, I mean, someone would make a good pass or a good save, and the whole crowd would gasp, or the whole crowd would stand up and cheer. So I feel like every movement, they were just so engaged during the Hull City game. So that was kind of a neat experience to see everyone so avidly, and attentive to the game. That was really, really neat.
Did Hull City win?
They did. Yes.
1-0.
1-0.
It was against Millwall, right?
Millwall.
Mm-hmm.
And Millwall's
interesting.
They've been pretty solid. So claiming 3 points for that. We're happy.
Yeah. That was an awesome game.
So Fifi, what has your experience been like going to games in like a place that has wonderful, exciting matches quite frequently?
So I unfortunately haven't been able to go to too many. Faisal hasn't taken me to a Man United yet. I've been waiting to wear my shirt.
Draw it out on the pod. What's going on?
Well, I'm waiting for that. But I haven't been to too many, to be honest. And the games I've been to have been friendly games. But I think the atmosphere is just so nice. It's family. The games that I've been to have been friendly, so there've been a lot of families there, and it's just so nice to see such a big people supporting such a massive game, and it's more than just a game, really, isn't it? There's so much to love about it. So I think, yeah, I enjoyed that, but I did really enjoy watching the World Cup last year on the TV as well.
Yeah.
I think we did quite well. England.
We did pretty well.
Couldn't beat us though.
That was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was last year. How did you find that? As in, like, watching like England with a fan who's just like in it.
It was very stressful watching it with you. Yeah, that's all I'll say. But yeah, I mean, it was. I love watching England, supporting England at World Cup games, Euro games. Like, I really feel like I'm part of something when I'm watching these games, and I love watching them with my friends, family. It's just everyone comes together and everyone's just watching them. I remember actually last year I watched the final. I was shopping for my wedding dress, and I was watching the final in the shop. And everyone had just stopped what they were doing to watch I think there were some penalties at the very end, and they were so intense, but everyone just stopped shopping and we're watching this small TV screen by the tills, and it felt, even though obviously it wasn't our team in the final, it was just a really surreal moment.
It just explains how much football grips the UK, right? And especially England when it comes to these like Euros games, especially how well we're performing. I think that just proves it, right? Like, it was a football game. It was France-Argentina, huge game, penalties. You know, it's a great experience, and it reminds you as well, like, as you're talking about, like, the spirit of the country that kind of comes together. When I was in in my flat as well, like, just that when I think England played Colombia, it was penalties. Normally England penalties just doesn't work, right? So there was just that really great atmosphere. We're on the balconies cheering. It was just something special. And I think when it comes to these sorts of like tournament games, the country just kind of comes together. I think that's the same with the US, right?
Yeah, I think our perspective on the sport is a little different. Of course, it's not as intense as what it is over here, and even for other European countries that are so about it, which is awesome and I'm very jealous of. Americans do get behind the U.S. men's national team and the U.S. women's national team during World Cup times, but when it's in between those years, there's kind of a lull. You'll have your hardcore supporters, so like myself, of course, and other people like me that will support certain teams in England, and they'll follow the U.S. men's national team, the women's national team, see the friendlies that they're playing, the World Cup qualifiers, but it's certainly not as big and not as a consistent community for the national team, at least, which is unfortunate because I am a diehard U.S. men's national team. Like, that's the team I pick over everybody. Same with the women's side too, so I'll always watch and follow those games for sure. So I wish that type of culture was a little bit more in the U.S., and I think we're getting there. It's a slow process. There's a lot of political imbalance in the way that U.S. soccer is managed. That's a topic for another day, but it makes it a little bit more convoluted, I think, for soccer fans in the U.S., especially as we're in a point where we're trying to grow the sport a bit more. Yeah. So I think it's tough, but we're getting there. It's just a slow process.
And that kind of brings me into, I suppose, a question for yourselves as well is, so obviously we love football, the beautiful games we call it in the UK, but if there's anything you guys could change about like football, could be anything from start to finish, what would it be and why? What would you guys?
And to set like a little perspective too, because I know like you're more fresh fans, which is cool. So that could be something like a rule change, something that you don't understand to make it easier to understand, something you just think would make it more fun. Totally up to you.
Yeah.
You haven't given us much time to think. There's so many things. I mean, I can go first.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess this might not be in regards to the actual game, maybe more so the atmosphere or culture around soccer in the US specifically. I think that once kids graduate high school, sports in general kind of fall off, the face of the earth for them. Yeah. But especially for lower leagues, and again, this is probably just my bias being associated with an individual who started a lower league club. I wish it were easier and more, I wish people were more excited to join either small leagues or to, it was easier maybe for lower leagues to be able to thrive and to be able to kind of grow. And again, it's with very limited knowledge, but I think that would probably be one thing I would like to change, at least in the US, is having more access, maybe less of a stereotype of, you know, once you graduate from college or high school, you kind of forget about sports, and soccer in particular. I think especially is not something that you see, you know, individuals doing a lot of.
You're a very beautiful and smart woman.
Well, thank you. It's just because I'm speaking soccer.
Well, just because you're also speaking the truth about it in the U.S.
No, it's a fun. I mean, Andrew and I actually, we played, I will say, Andrew played some indoor soccer this year, and that was super fun. We were just doing like some, you know, fun indoor soccer league.
I mean, we did. It was a competitive indoor co-ed league.
It was.
That you played on, too.
It was, and it was so fun. And part of me just wishes, you know, I wish more people would do this. And especially with, usually when they think of, you know, adult leagues, it's baseball or basketball, but never really soccer or football. So just also from my own personal experience, it was super fun. So I wish it was more accessible and people were more excited to do stuff like that. So.
Love that.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
So I've had a couple minutes to think about this now.
No pressure.
I think making the games more accessible to a wider range of people, because myself, having only been to a couple of games in my life, and you know, living in a great country that has a wonderful team and Premier League and everything, I think if I had the opportunity to go to more games, then I think I'd probably would have had more of an interest in football when I was a lot younger. But yeah, I never really had that opportunity. And I think if the tickets were more, you know, I think I've heard some of the Premier League matches. The tickets they can go for a lot of money. So I think if it was more accessible to lots of different people, then that'd be a good thing.
Is known as historically as the working man's game, right? And that was originally kind of, you know, from the early days. Now it is so expensive. There's like loads of stuff out there that will kind of talk about like how much it is for like a pie, for example, and how much it is for certain things. It's just so expensive nowadays. So I think that's just really important for us to rethink about, like how we bring in obviously youngsters in, for example, to football, to watch families, for example, and how they actually enjoy the game as well. So yeah, I totally agree. And the one thing I was going to sort of say from my own kind of perspective as well was more kind of like it's more the diversity of the game. I think there's a lot more that can be done, especially for like British Asian specifically in the world of football more generally, but especially in like English and English Premier League as well. There isn't as many. I think there's maybe one or two potentially. I think that more needs to be done from that side, whether that be at grassroots level, but also more generally when it comes to referees as well. I think that is, you know, that's a larger conversation about diversity in the football game, right? But I think more needs to be done in terms of grassroots and how we can diversify the game more generally. I think that will also make it accessible, because once you have people that you can see yourself playing in those games, for example, you're more likely to attend and feel more kind of comfortable going to those games. So I think there's a lot to be done. I know there are stuff being done, but I think there's a lot, we can do a lot more to do that. So my side probably be, yeah, kind of linking up to what you're saying, trying to kind of diversify the game more at grassroots level, but also make it more accessible, like you said. Because they're so extortionate tickets. Like, I'm sure you guys will know, just to get tickets. And you get great seats, right?
So, for perspective, the whole City game, which they're in the championship, so the division below the Premier League, it was like £24 per person. And then we had great seats. We were like right on the edge. And I say that's like a pretty fair price.
That's actually a very fair price. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I wasn't either. So if you go to any type of US game and you want to sit where we sat, so we were first row behind one of the corner flags. And then awesome experience, really cool. You hear the fans, you're like right on the pitch. You can pretty much throw something and you'd be able to hit the guy taking the corner. If you were trying to get seats like that in the US, even for the Columbus Crew, you'd be paying a couple $100 for that.
Wow. I was gonna
So
say
no
we
chance
got
we
a couple
do that.
tickets to the U.S. men's national game, and those tickets I think were gifted to us. However, they were in the hundreds.
We paid money for them.
Oh no!
Yeah.
No. Okay, so maybe it was the other game, the crew game that we went to with your friends, but.
If anyone does want a gift, who's listening to the podcast, wants to gift us 4
Yeah,
tickets,
if you-
Yeah, please.
just let us
great.
know.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Yeah.
Because the U.S. men's national team game we went to that you were talking about, it was $90 a ticket, but you had, and they were decent seats, not amazing or anything, but you have to go into a raffle even to be able to purchase those tickets.
That's
Yeah.
same here.
And,
as
like-
well. It's like season ticket holders, right? So
Yeah.
for example, cup games,
Yes.
they'll give first kind of to the first to the people who are like season ticket holders who will go to every game, for example. So, and to get a season ticket, the waiting list for some Premier League games of Premier League teams is years, genuinely.
Oh my
Really?
goodness.
Yeah.
So yeah, make it more accessible.
100%. That'll be pretty special.
And same in the U.S. too. So the accessibility thing kind of goes down through the lower leagues. And again, this is something I could talk about for a long time, but it's pay to play in the U.S. So if you're a kid and you have talent and you need to be on a team that is fairly competitive so you can develop those talents, you have to pay money. And your parents have to pay money. And usually if you want to get into a good academy where you can actually get trained to try to make it to the next level, you have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars just to be able to get that training.
Oh wow.
Which is, insane. So we're missing out in general as a U.S. soccer nation from the men's and women's side on strong, awesome players that could eventually play for MLS sides, higher, lower division sides, the national teams, just because a lot of these players aren't going to be able to afford it, which sucks. So I do think, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Just making it, the whole sport in general, more accessible for fans, for players, for people that want to get interested in it. I think that's so important.
So now I know you asked us the question. I know you guys kind of piggybacked off of our answers, but is that what you guys would change about the sport?
I think that was what I was kind of thinking. I think
Yeah.
when I originally asked it, my first thought was very much kind of trying to open up the game, because I think there is, it, as we kind of spoke about, like it encapsulates a whole country, and then be able to and like you guys said, there are stadiums everywhere. There are stadiums down the road from where we're currently recording this, so like it's huge, and be able to make them. And there's games literally every weekend, so people should be able to go and just enjoy it and just spend some time. So I think accessibility is a really big one, but I think I was more, as like I said, like the diversity of it is more, that's more a personal thing for myself. I think there's a lot more, if it might be more culturally potentially, if you think about it, football isn't, especially from Pakistani culture, isn't 101. No one wants their child at that age in that sort of culture, I suppose, to essentially be a footballer. It's more kind of doctors and that sort of area. So I think being able to kind of make that more accessible and make that those opportunities clearer, I think that personally for me would really kind of see that. I'd love to see some more kind of British Asian footballers in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? It'd be amazing. It'd be great for the sport as well. So and also great for grassroots football, because a lot of my uncles used to play it growing up. They used to play a lot of the games, and it's a big one, and then it kind of just falls off. So having some, whether there's scouts of the game, for example, where there's a specific league, or whether there is not just like dotted teams, for example, whether that be in lower league, or whether there's more needs to be done from a marketing perspective, that might be another thing. I mean, things like, for example, as you kind of said, #United, right? Like, even if there was like a channel dedicated to that, I think that would be great, right? So more promotion, better marketing around those areas would be what I would say.
I would say the same. So I definitely echo what all of you have already said. The community element, I think, needs to be more, especially in the US, because in England, it's so cool. Like a lot of the clubs, there's so much community around them.
Yeah.
In the US, it started more from a commercial perspective. So they're like, oh, there's this new sport in the US that we can commercialize and create Major League Soccer. So we're going to build teams that are franchises of the league. So they're not owned by the community. They're not owned by like specific individuals in the community. It's just an investment that you take out as a franchise from the league, which is quite different from how it is structured here. So I would love to see it more of like a community thing. I think that would be really cool. And of course, I want it to be more accessible. I could yell at so many people about needing more accessibility in soccer. But the one very specific thing that I would change, I would get rid of throw-ins and I would make everything a kick-in.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
So explain that, please.
So as you probably know, a throw-in, and everybody out there as well, if the ball goes out of the touchline, not where the goalkeepers stand, but the 2 sidelines. You will take the ball, the other team that did not kick it out of bounds, and throw it over your head into hopefully your teammate. However, I would get rid of that rule, and I would say if that happens, it goes out on one of the sidelines. You then, instead of throwing it, you set the ball on the line, and then you kick it in. So you either try to kick it to one of your teammates or try to maybe kick it far in, almost like a corner kick. I think throw-ins are kind of worthless to me. Like, what you watch when that happens, they're either going to do 2, maybe 3 things. They're either going to drop it back and throw it to one of their open defenders, which makes sense, maintain possession, that's okay. They're either going to then, if not that, throw it into maybe someone that's kind of in the mix, that they're trying to get possession, but they have a defender on their back, or they're just going to try to throw it long, either to clear it away from maybe a dangerous position or try to make someone get it that's on the run. It's okay. It doesn't add much value to me. If you have a kick in, then it makes it more strategic and interesting, because instead of just trying to throw it as far as you can, if it's toward the corner, then it's going to be almost like another corner kick if it's maybe just a few yards away. So that makes a lot more interesting situations for me. And if you want, you can still easily drop it back to a defender. If you want to just try to maintain possession, you can do the same, but it provides more options and I think makes the game a little bit more interesting.
You've definitely thought about this.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wouldn't that be too much of an advantage though?
I wouldn't think so.
The kick in.
I would think that it makes defenders need to be more aware more quickly, because especially you can take a throw in as quick as you want, and you'll see like some of these videos.
We'll just creep on there as well. They'll
Yeah.
kind of like move forward.
They walk up. Yep. So then I think that's another thing I would change also. Have the referees be
Where
more
it is.
strict about where it goes out. It's up to the referees just to make that decision.
I see.
I blame referees 100% for that. But I don't think so. I think it makes it just as interesting, because if they're going to take a quick kick in, just like a quick throw in, which you can take it again as fast as you want, then that just means the defenders have to be ready.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
I think throw-ins just seem like the game goes a lot quicker rather than kick-ins. But do they have kick-ins from corners, or are they throw-ins
So
as
you've
well?
got those kind of set pieces, right? So you'd argue that it technically you get the only time it's throw-ins on the side, right? But then if it goes out behind the goals, then you'd have like a corner kick. So I think that's what it is. But my thing was to be a little more fun, and it's something that we played on FIFA before as well, and I've seen before, right? Is every time someone scores, the opposition loses a player, or is it opposition or the team that
The team that scores.
Interesting.
Like, can you imagine?
Wow.
Oh, that would be
Chaos.
very interesting,
Yeah.
but chaotic.
Yeah,
Pure chaos, yeah.
the games wouldn't last for 90 minutes.
Yeah,
You would
that would be
think.
the
Yeah.
beauty of it.
Yeah.
Like, and then you have extra little halves, so you can split into like how you do with like the NFL and stuff, and kind of go like you have certain 50-minute halves, for example.
Yeah.
You can bring in players in. I think it would be pretty. I mean, it will no longer be football as it is now, but just for like sheer comedy value and like TV,
Sure.
it'd be insane. Can you imagine that?
So there's like All-Star Weekend for other sports in the US, and they do like fun, cool events, kind of like that. So they'll like do unique, different types of take on the game. The MLS has one. They used to do cool stuff, then they stopped, and now they're trying to get back to it. One of the cool things like that, which I think would be awesome, having like a weekend with different games and things. You take some of the best players to do this type of thing. There's one called Goalie Wars. So you set 2 goals about 25 yards away from each other, and keepers are standing in the goal, and they try to score on each other. And they can do it however they want. They can throw it, they can
That's
punt
cool.
it, they can drop kick it, they can kick it like off the goal line, whatever they want to do. And they just try to get as many points in a certain amount of time. A lot of cool
like
stuff.
The potential, there's definitely potential.
Yeah.
Right? I remember seeing a video years ago. I think it was, I don't know who it was. I can't remember who it was. But there was 2 players, like quite high profile players, against like 100 kids.
Oh wow.
I can't. Was Gareth Bale or
I think it was.
I felt like one of them was Gareth Bale.
Yeah, and there were 3 of them.
Yeah, there was 3 exactly, and they were just playing. And these little kids, there's about 100 of them, and they're trying to chase the ball around. Like it was
Oh
really
wow.
really
So
crazy.
how did that end?
They scored.
They scored.
Yeah, the 3 actual players scored.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
they did.
goodness.
Wow.
But you could just see the video's hilarious if you get a chance to watch it, because it's literally just they've got the ball and the guys are just running after the ball.
That's so funny.
All 90, pretty much 90 of them are like running. 10 are just like scattered around the pitch. And you got 90 just chasing after the ball. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll link it in the
that's
show
fun.
notes.
That.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes and find
Yeah.
it so that everybody can
Even
watch
like
it
an
too.
all-star game would be pretty cool. We do a lot of charity games here, right? So like they'll do a soccer aid, normally at Manchester or in Old Trafford and or sometimes Wembley and stuff. So and that's really cool. They have like the World 11 versus England and those sorts of games are really cool. But I would love to see like an all-star Premier League one where they have like, I think I've seen a couple of ones with like North versus South. So you got your Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, for example, versus your Man United and Man City and potentially even like, can you imagine those sorts of games? I think that would be
Wow.
pretty epic to see.
That's so cool. That happens in the U.S.
Does it?
So, but it's for American football.
Yeah.
So it's called the Pro Bowl. So the divisions are broken up into 2 sections. So you have your West and your East, I think. I actually don't know a ton about American football. But then they get the best 11 or 22 for backups as well. So the best 22 from the West and the best 22 from the East, and then they play a game against each other. So yeah, having that like in football would be really cool. Like in soccer, that'd be great.
That would be.
So I have a question for everybody quickly. I actually don't know this about you either, Faisal. So this is a question. I'll have you answer it first and then give our lovely lady some time to think about
Gives
it.
us some time. Oh, good.
So it's nothing too intensive, but who is your favorite player just in general? It can be a retired player. It can be a current player. Who would you think is your favorite player?
So this is so difficult. But for me, growing up, Wayne Rooney has to be up there for me. And there's various reasons. So many games. Like just growing up, just every time he had the ball, the goals, the games. I mean, that Man City goal, for example, the overhead kick. Just shouting, Wayne, like Rooney, when the ball comes in. Just the memories of it. And for me, he really epitomized like actual who really fought for the badge. As you're talking about the kick-ins, I remember when they do the drop ball and there's always these kind of memes about like skinhead Wayne Rooney, for example, like was just different. He was just different. Tenacity, like pure like bravery going into every tackle from start to finish and going in from dropping in, like used to be a striker and then going into like number 10 role and just his sheer determination to get the ball, just reliable, like just even for England as well, like, you know, just relying on like Wayne Rooney, to have Wayne Rooney in your team. It was just watching Wayne Rooney was incredible, and I've had the pleasure to watch him as well when see some of the games, for example, from a few like again years ago, was incredible. So when I think of Wayne Rooney, I think, you know, for me, people would say, oh, maybe it's like a Pele or like a, you know, I think, I mean, for me, it's just he's up there. Cristiano Ronaldo's obviously up there as well, but you know, it's been a bit tainted at the moment as a Man United fan. I think that's tarnished it a little bit. But for me, when I think of one of my favourite players, I'm going to say 100% Wayne Rooney. Will always be one of my favourites.
Nice. That's a good shout for sure. And if you have not seen the documentary called Rooney, it's on Amazon Prime, I believe. It's so good. Check that out as well. I've watched it recently. Pretty awesome. It gives you like that good perspective that you have, like how he actually was as a player, his upbringing too. It is pretty cool. It's a good
I
watch.
might need to watch that.
Yeah.
Get caught up a little bit.
So ladies, do you either of you have a favorite player at your current fandom state?
Do you?
It's a great question. Well, I mean, I'm a huge Delaware Rising fan. I don't know why I didn't mention that earlier.
You can't say the coach. You can't say it happens
So
to be
I
Andrew.
I would say this really amazing player named Andrew Schwalek. However, I actually would say, well, Nathan Schwalek. It's definitely one of my favorite.
Okay.
And he's a better player than I ever was too.
Well,
he still
family
plays for
ties.
Delaware Rising.
Family ties.
He is.
That's a question though. Is that a cop out? Let's think about this.
Well, I do have a second.
Okay.
All right. Nice.
We'll go with a second. So actually, well, this is horrible. Please don't kick me off right now, but I don't even know the name of this player, so I'm going to rely on my wonderful husband. On the U.S. men's national team, I don't know why. This man is my, favorite aside from Nathan. He's got blonde hair and wears in a ponytail. He's a defender. And we saw him play against Costa Rica.
Yeah.
In the Crew Stadium. And I just remember thinking, he's such a good player, and he was warming up right in front of us. And I don't know if that's just how women's brains work. I don't know if that's how my brain works, but I was like, I like this player. And, I could say, Pulisic or, someone else, but I feel like he's not quite as well known. And so I think he's just a phenomenal
Fulham
player.
right?
No, it should be him. He's really cool.
What's his name?
I
forgot.
Tim Ream.
Tim Ream.
Yeah.
I thought it was Ream, but it's not Ream.
So we have two like blonde-haired ponytail
okay.
guys on the U.S. men's national team. Tim Ream is super awesome and kind of came back after being old and not a huge part of the U.S. men's national team. Now playing awesome for Fulham. But you're talking about Walker Zimmerman.
Yes, I'm talking about Zimmerman, yes.
A defender.
Yes.
Yes, and not as good as Tim Ream, but also he's a good U.S. men's national team defender.
And I am very sorry. I'm not a true fan if I don't even remember his name. But you said Zimmerman, and yes, it is Zimmerman.
Nice. That's a good shout.
Nice.
I'm
What are you
exactly
thinking?
the same. I know who my favourite player is,
Just
but I can't remember.
explain
their
it. Say their name. Give us a
Game.
description. Give us a description.
He's currently the top scorer for Man United.
Marcus Rashford.
Yeah. His name went out of
Great
my
shout.
head.
It's so lovely. We have these wonderful men here to help, decode what we're trying to say. This is
I
great.
do know his name, it just went out of my head, but he's my favourite player at the moment because not only is he a great scorer for Man United, you can probably give us some stats, but I feel like he's so young. He's part of the a new era of footballers who are doing good for society as well. So I actually don't know the specifics, but it was to do with school dinners for young children who are deprived in England, in the UK, so supporting these
School
young
meals.
children. Yeah, school meals. So yeah, he's the one player that really sticks out in my mind.
That's awesome.
It's a really great shout.
Oh yeah, good player, good person.
Really, tick. There we go. Right, really, really good. Yeah, I mean, incredible player.
I feel like he's really humble as well. I get that impression from him.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly not like Ronaldo when he's trying to leave Manchester United. And Rashford has had some off years when he's been at United, but he's still stuck around, which is cool.
I've got a fun question. Now, thinking about football as an individual, say, for example, you guys were playing the game. What position would you play? What is your position? Now, I'll give you a bit of context here because we can't just go for anything, right? So obviously you got your goalkeeper. We also know the goalkeeper, right?
Yeah.
You got your defenders, and so you got your central defenders. You got solid at the back, just holding the game. Then you got your left and right back, so you're running down the wings maybe, or taking on the wingers, crossing in the ball. You got those areas. Then you got your midfielders. You're looking at people perhaps playing it into the box, for example, perhaps looking left and right, kind of scanning the game. And then you obviously got your striker, getting the goals, going to be in the box, getting those opportunities in the net. So what are you thinking? What would be your position if you'd play, and why?
And why? I think I will go for the midfielder position.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's less pressure on you as a midfielder because you're not too close to the goals on either side, and you can just keep an eye on what's going on around you, but not in the thick of it. So there's not much pressure on you if you don't score or if you let a goal in. So yeah, that's what I'd pick.
Do you like going for runs?
No, you have to run a lot, don't you?
Midfielders run the most usually.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Awesome.
Taking one for the team.
Love it.
Nice.
Great.
That's good. Actually, I think I would also be a midfielder. I don't know, or back. I don't know. I'm at a bit of an advantage. I did play the indoor soccer
Nice.
this past winter, so obviously, I'm the worst individual out there, just kind of trying to play. But I am a endurance runner. I love to run, and so I think if I had the opportunity to play when I was younger and continue with soccer or football, I think probably midfield, just because of the running aspect. I think they do a lot of running, and I can run for long periods of time. But I also feel like they have to be the least selfish with the ball. I feel like they're constantly either passing, or you have to have a lot of spatial awareness of the field as a midfielder. So I think I'd rather do that than being someone who's just, I know every position has its thing, but I don't think I'm someone who would like to constantly get the ball and make those runs, and as like a forward would. So I just feel like a midfielder would be.
Nice.
I think you would be a very good defensive midfielder because you have to do all those same responsibilities, but you have a little bit more defensive tendencies. I think from seeing you in indoor, you would step into a challenge, break up the play.
German farm girl.
Yeah, you get in there, rough them up.
I definitely, I guess I could probably see myself being a little bit more defensive and not quite as offensive.
Hey, you assisted 2 goals in that league.
Well,
Oh,
that
we
was
got
all
some
because of
assists.
She
my
did.
favorite
Nice.
player, Nathan.
Did assist Nathan twice,
Schmalk.
yes. It's a goal scoring machine.
Yeah.
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 Nice.
But I think that'd probably be where I'd be.
Love that. 2 really great answers there. On the spot as well. Like, fair play to you.
How about you two? Have you thought about it?
Before I was cut down on my prime. So I played down the wing. I think I used to really enjoy just kind of going down and kind of crossing the balls. But I think now with our position, I think I would liken myself to like a Paul Pogba kind of player, you know, and kind of sitting back into those kind of places.
What's his position?
So he's like, he's what you call.
Explain that.
Actually, let me pick a bit more recent. I think like a Jude Bellingham, for example. So England player, like box to box midfielder. So they're really good defensively, but in attack, excellent as well. So there's not very many good box to box midfielders out there. It takes a lot of endurance, like you guys said, like a lot of spatial awareness. You've got to be as good as you are offensive as you are defensive, and that takes a lot. So they're truly probably the most complete players. So if I could be any player, I'd love to kind of balance both my game, to be able to kind of go, I can do that defensive side, but also be able to kind of break up the lines, be able to take one pass and then really cut up and just be able to kind of cross it into place where it starts off an attack. So I think in an ideal world, I'd love to be able to kind of do that kind of box to box midfielding. But now probably just sticking as goalkeeper on at the moment. But
I feel like you'd be a phenomenal goalkeeper.
yeah. But safe pair of hands. There we go. But yeah, I think that's probably what it'd be. I mean, that's an ideal. I think a lot of people as well, like in more and more nowadays in terms of academies, are trying to look out for more box to box midfielders. So it's not everybody's kind of brought up to become people are kind of either like a speedy winger, depending on your size, right? So for like historically, if you're tall, you know, quite big, you're more likely to be a centre back. If you're more like a nippy, like in the sort of small, short, you're more likely to be like a winger, for example. Not many short. There's Arturo Martinez, who's world class, by the way. Many short defenders. I say short, 5'7", 5'6", for example. So, but if you're looking at more kind of strikers, you're more complete, and a lot of people kind of fall in those categories. So, to be like a box to box, it takes like a lot, and a lot of academies don't necessarily teach that. And there's some really good documentaries at the moment, but I think I saw last year on like the Crystal Palace documentary about how they are talking about the academies, looking into the academies, and how difficult it has been for themselves to find a particular box to box midfielder. So I think that'd be some interesting for us to develop more. But if I could, I'd love to do that, man. How about you, Andrew? What are you thinking?
Awesome.
That's a good point too. I mean, that's another reason why Jude Bellingham is going to go for quite a lot of money to the next club he signs for.
Probably Man United, but probably unlikely.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated in future episodes on the transfer rumors, especially as that starts up with the next transfer window looming. But my position I've always played was an outside midfielder. Even when I was young, growing up, I always played in the midfield. And in college, I was an outside midfielder. I dropped to a right back occasionally as well, just because I can kind of run for a long time. My playing style is like Landon Donovan, just less attacking. So he had like a battery and could just run forever. And that's essentially the skill that I had. I wasn't the best football player out there, but I could run often, and passing was probably the best thing I could do. So I can run a lot and pass. Outside midfielder worked.
So when I have seen you play football, he's everywhere all at the same time. I mean, you're very scrappy and
Is
very
he good?
at running.
Is Andrew?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah, he is.
You heard it here, guys. First, this is
Absolutely. Yeah, very good player and very fast, very very fast, and very scrappy.
I think scrappy is the right word.
I think you've also shown me, sometimes when you're being scrappy and you are shorter, it's like you don't always you can get away with a little bit more too.
That's
which
true.
is nice. So
I try to do
I think you figured that out.
I try to do like the Christian Pulisic vibes when I'm playing. So usually I'm the one that gets fouled the most because I can wiggle in and then get the right positioning, and the bigger dudes are just like too clunky or too slow, and then they hit me, and then I go down and we get the foul. It's my strat.
Very sneaky. Yeah. But I guess we probably couldn't form a team if we'd all be midfielders then here, right?
I mean,
Well, 4-4-2. Gotta have 4 midfielders. Very good. That's right. So earlier in the podcast, we talked about diversity, and that's a huge thing that a lot of people are pushing now, not as much as they should. We wanted to talk about the women's game a little bit, and just for a little bit of perspective, in the U.S., we'll kind of start with that conversation. And our game plan is to try to get your thoughts on the women's game and then just have that conversation in general as well. In the U.S., thankfully, U.S. women's soccer, there is a place for it, and it has been around for a little while. So there have been a decent amount of leagues where women can play. And then also the U.S. women's national team. I mean, if you follow along, you know that they have been better for so long compared to the men's team, which is great. And I think the reason for that is because of our high school systems. So high school allows any individual, as they are continuing their sporting career, to have like an actual competitive playing experience. Especially some high schools take it real seriously. And women's sports, at least women's soccer specifically, I think developed in the US to make the women's side better than the men's so quickly, because having that structure allowed us to be better than some of the other nations in the world that don't have the same high school structure. So having high school sports allowed women's soccer to develop and to have an outlet for women to play competitive soccer matches. So that's my theory as to why the U.S. women's national team has been so good for so long. Now, with that being said, I think that it's stalled, and it can be so much better in the U.S. than it needs to be, because there are just not the same opportunities, whether that's from media rights, whether that's from support, whether that's from funding, and hopefully we can make that better. Della Rising is trying to do that. We are kicking off our women's team this year, which we're super excited about. But I think that as it is getting better, there is still a lack of opportunity. And the women's national team has brought that to light a lot as well, with having different lawsuits against U.S. soccer and just making sure that they're paid the same, that they have the same opportunities as the men, especially as they're performing better. So just to set that kind of picture in mind, what are all three of your thoughts on the state of the women's game, and especially as like to newer-ish type of fans and from an England perspective as well? What are your thoughts? Feel free. Anyone can dive in to tap into the subject.
I can jump in. It's an interesting one because obviously, as you kind of said, the women's game is huge. If you look at England, Euros, incredible, right? And then we watching the finalissima.
Yeah.
It was like between the World Cup holds, which is Brazil, against England, and England won that on penalties. So great experience, and it's always really great to see. And I think we were kind of discussing this as well, I think earlier as well. I think it kind of depends. It's less so about men's football versus women's football. I think when you look about the discussion, I think you need to look at it as almost like an institution in itself. And I think it's difficult to kind of compare just because of how you'd argue how established the men's game is. And just how much revenue is going into it. If you look at World Cup, for example, the amount of viewers globally is just huge, millions. I think it's probably one of the most watched sports games, right? Everyone kind of knows it, and I think it's less so about the men's game versus the women's game, and more so about, in my opinion, really giving the women's football the credit they deserve, and really giving the funding it deserves to really allow it to bring in the revenue that matches the men's game. So at the moment, it isn't funded correctly. There is a lot more that can be done. It's definitely far better now. I'm seeing genuine women's football on BBC. Like, you would never expect that, right? About 10 years ago. So the fact that, I think I watched the Man United versus Brighton game, which was a great game, 3-2 Brighton to Man United versus, that was the semi-finals, I think it was, of the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. So these sorts of games and this sorts of like revolution is happening, but I think more needs to be done for the women's game to really become a bit more of a force as a whole. So I think, it's not really fair to kind of compare the two, and I think work's happening, but more can be done to really bring in the women's sport. I'm talking here partnerships, talking about branding. I'm talking about, for example, like how come Gucci has signed Jack Grealish, and there isn't perhaps a high level of a big fashion partnership brand with, say, a women's footballer. So I think women's football team members. So I think there's definitely disparity there as well. So that's what I would say. I think you almost need to really inject more funding and more partnerships and more branding into the women's game for it to kind of come in its own.
You said something that was super important too, because there is an argument out there, at least from the American perspective, when we're talking like the U.S. women's national team versus the men's national team. One, you don't have to compare them. But two, if you are looking at it from a successful perspective, the women's national team is better than the men's national team. They've won the World Cup so regularly.
Sure. Yeah.
So it makes sense from that perspective. But there's the argument out there that says, yes, but the men are the ones that are bringing in the revenue. They have the media rights. The issue, and the thing that you said that swats that argument in the face, of course, if you're just pumping a ton of money into something, that is the thing that's going to look successful, even if it's not acting as successfully. If there's something that's acting more successfully but doesn't have the funding, that doesn't make sense. The thing that's super successful, why would you not put more money to it? Exactly. Then it could even surpass what the men's side is doing. So I think those arguments are so dumb when people say that, because I used to think like, okay, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. If they're making the most money in revenue, ticket sales, all that kind of stuff, then maybe they should get the bigger slice of the pie. But when you start to look at it from that perspective of like what you were talking about, it makes more sense because they just have all the money, all the funding, all the support. If you're not giving it to the other side, then of course they're not going to be as having those same results. So thank you for saying that, because we're now going to hopefully slowly have that conversation and educate people on why it is so much more important to start funding them, even when they are being super successful, which is kind of dumb, because if they're being super successful, obviously you should give them more resources. I love the women's national team. They're so awesome. And Alex Morgan, I love you. We will have her on the podcast someday. So now we dove pretty deep into the weeds on that. From your perspective as females talking about the sport of soccer/football, what is your perspective on that?
I think you both have really interesting thoughts on this, and I would agree with you both. I just think that football, we associate it as being a men's sport, and we have done from, I remember, I never knew there was a Man United women's team until recently. I had no idea until you told me that. I think I'm seeing, since England won the Euros last year, I think I'm seeing a lot more about women's football, and we watched the Finalissima as well, and that was incredible. I think we'll hopefully see some more money being put into women's sport. And I mean, there isn't as much in the media, there isn't as much on social media, but hopefully we will be able to see more about it.
From a women's perspective, not seeing it as much in the media, does that like disappoint you? Would you want to see more of that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is disappointing, but you just don't really, if you've never seen something like that before, you don't think it exists. So I never knew that women's football was even a sport. And I didn't know there was a team. I didn't know each different Premier League team had its own equivalent women's team. So I think it's just education really, and hopefully things are changing though.
I think it goes back into the branding, right? I think you obviously got the Women's Super League and there's a lot of money behind that, but I think there's more can be done from like a branding perspective. I think if you look at it, you'd argue, for example, you look on your TV, you've got people like Jordan Henderson doing I think it was the Gillette, which one it is? Well, Nivea for men, I think it is. The Liverpool team, for example, are doing that. So it's more about like those sorts of partnerships in the brand. You see these footballers aren't just athletes. They become celebs, right? And they become, in their own right, money-making machines. They have like, there's not many, and I'd be interested to kind of hear more about this from like an actual women's footballer, but like in terms of like managers, for example, they have like agencies, football agencies, for example, supporting them. They have like great partnerships with like Puma and Nike and stuff, and that's a lot of it where the money goes into, and that's where the branding goes into. And if that's not happening for the women's game, like it's just, it's not going to get to where it kind of needs to be. So I think there's more needs to be done, like you said, from a like an awareness perspective and a branding perspective, from a social media perspective as well. So yeah.
And what do you think?
I feel like I don't know as much. I feel like I wouldn't be doing, women athletes as much justice. I feel like there's so much that goes into it, right? And you can get pretty deep into, women's sports and some of the inequities there. But I think that as a culture, a culture as a whole, especially in the U.S., I'm not sure how it is here. I feel like most sports were predominantly men's sports. And so, up until recently, women would stay home with the kids, you know what I mean? Like, and there was a certain role that, women played. And then finally there was kind of this freedom for women to be able to become, athletes, because women are can be such amazing athletes. And I think, Faisal, what you said about the comparison, I think is probably one of the biggest things, especially as like an athlete myself. Like I feel like sometimes there is this expectation that women have to compete at the same level as men or perform like men, and maybe instead of feeling like there has to be this competition, more of an appreciation for women athletes and women's sports. And again, I mean, I'm just reiterating what you guys are saying. I feel like, especially too with the funding piece and, these opportunities, and it's like, well, what comes first, the funding or the crowd, or, what is it? But I think ultimately there has been a shift in terms of women's sports, but I think ultimately the biggest thing is this comparison that women's sports have to perform as men's sports, and they're not going to, because they are different and better in other ways than men. I mean, it's just different. So I don't know if I don't know if that makes sense. Again, I just kind of am saying what you guys are saying, but I think that kind of hit home for me when it was like, well, it's different. And I think maybe if we start being a little bit more open to watching women's sports, or watching women's football. I mean, because I think for me, the first time women's sports kind of, in all honesty, kind of popped up for me was when the women won the World Cup. And then there was this whole thing, about those women kind of fighting for, equal pay, and there was this just eye-opening experience, I think, for me and for a lot of other women, and for our culture as a whole, in terms of how women feel in the sports right now. And so I think that there's a lot of positive change happening. I hope there is. And again, this is coming from someone who knows like very little about the matter, but I think probably the comparison thing is the biggest inhibitor, and just training people to say like, it's okay if it's different, or it's okay if it's not always been this way. This is a different perspective, or these are different. There are going to be slight differences, but being able to appreciate instead of constantly feeling like there's a comparison between the two.
I think the coolest part about soccer/football as a sport, from men's to women's side, it's actually similar. So if you think about the NBA versus the WNBA, that's like a comparison that happens in US quite often, of saying the NBA is so intense, it's so dramatic with the dunks and high flying and all that kind of stuff. And then when you look at the WNBA, it's not the same, because women's and men's physiologies are different. Makes sense. It's a different type of game. So I think in that instance, comparing them doesn't make sense at all. Of course, you're seeing two different things. You need different types of strategies. You do need to have different types of strategies with soccer. But if you watch a men's soccer game and a women's soccer game, it's fairly similar. You use fairly similar strategies and tactics. You see awesome skill moves from both sides. You can hit bangers from outside the box from any gender. It's so cool. So that's why I think it is a sport that can lead the way in making sure there is equality, because it really is such an awesome experience to watch either type of game. And it doesn't matter, because if you're a men's soccer fan, you can instantly understand and be a fan of women's soccer too. So that is why I love women's soccer. It's the same. It's the same sport. It's the exact same thing. From a coaching perspective as well, I've coached men and women, and it's the same strategies. We use the same formations, same tactics. You just have different players, and you adjust based on the player's skills. So that is so cool. So I think that is why soccer really can be the way to make sure that there is equality in both sides of the sport.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great.
What revelation that we've just arrived.
So
No, I think that's really neat.
it is. It's so awesome.
I think I think when you said it, maybe because different sports require different, physiologically require different maybe tactics, and maybe that's what I was thinking in terms of like the comparison. It's like, oh, it might not be as fast, or it might not, but they're different things that, because women athletes are absolutely
it's
amazing.
complete.
and
Like you
fierce.
said, it's very much different in itself, right? And
Yeah.
as you can imagine, I think you mentioned about accessibility as well. Like it is much cheaper and much easier at the moment to get tickets to the women's game. 100%. Your Chelsea women's team is awesome, one of the best in the country, up there with obviously Man United. I think recently it's been a couple of seasons they've actually started their team. I think it was under Ollie they actually launched their team, so it's been like what 3 or 4 years maybe, even that, and what they're like top 2 of the league and stuff, so nearly in the semi-finals of the FA Cup as well. So I think there is definitely accessibility, and I think we're at the beginning of something here where almost you are being to feed the audiences. I was watching that when I watch it on BBC, for example. For a start, it's on the BBC. Like, it was a mid-afternoon on a Saturday, which is great to see. And you look in the audience, it's masses, like so much, like there's all manner of people there. It's so fun, like it's such a fun game. You see, it's very much like the men's game in terms of the fan base, etc. So it's something that will continue to grow. I think we'll definitely give it time. I think it'll be in a greater place. So, but it's already beginning what we said at the beginning about making football more accessible. And if you make more football accessible, people will. If you build it, people will come. And I think that's a really big part of this. So I think hopefully in a couple of years you'll see a really strong and a bit more of a bit more presence from the women's game, specifically stamping its authority in the UK and then obviously further afield. So yeah,
I hope so. And just another random perspective with Delaware Rising. So we started Delaware Rising in 2020. So we've had our men's side for about 3 years, and it was a slow start. We got some good players, but year over year we've improved. But we had open tryouts this last year for the women's side, which will be kicking off this year, and the talent is insanely different. Our women's team, I think like we may win the championship our first year just because they are so talented. So that just goes to show that there are just not opportunities around for women in the game to continue after college, at least in where we are over in the States. It's the same for the men as well, but there are still more outlets that men can get into in lower league soccer, but there's just not that available to women. And I just, from a personal small bubble of Ohio experience, being able to see that is interesting. And Rose Lavelle, U.S. Women's National Team player, she played on a lower league amateur team before she ended up being on the women's national team.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty wild. So it just goes to show you that there's just not as opportunities out there as there should be.
Or maybe women's football is key to a lot of issues that we're having.
Yep, fix that. Maybe it'll fix the world.
Maybe it's the key.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
It's great that you're creating these opportunities, though. Sounds like, there's a great future ahead for
Right.
the women.
With Delaware Rising and starting a women's team, I mean, especially as a woman, it makes me really proud too that you guys are doing that, and
Love that.
having that support, because you're right. I think a lot of it too is just changing the norms, and whenever you turn on the TV, whenever you say sports, automatically assume it's going to be men playing, either men, American football or baseball or, all soccer, football, things like this. And so maybe we can change that.
I think we all have a role to play in it. So if you are listening, you are watching, go to a women's game, enjoy it, get stuck in, watch the games, whether you be on TV, for example, tweet about it, and watch the games. They're on BBC nowadays, or especially if you're in London or in the UK as well, there's loads of games happening on a regular basis. The league's actually very good, so, and it's a lot easier to get tickets, so use the opportunity to do that. So just a shout out to the game.
And if you are in the US as well and you're listening, one, thank you, we appreciate it, and you're doing a little part by staying educated on football/soccer as well, so we appreciate you for that. But find your local club. So there are so many different clubs throughout the US that you can find and support that have women's and men's teams. So support your local club, as well as finding a big club like Manchester United to support as well. It's always fun because, like you were saying, my ancestral history ended up being from Swanland. So Swanland is right next to Hull, which is probably where my family was in the 1700s. So I'm a Hull City supporter. Love that. #United. We went to a #United game. Just a cool,
awesome.
Interesting team that started from a YouTuber that I followed, and now they're working their way up the divisions of English football. Super cool story. Lower league action that you can follow. Just find something that's interesting to you in your community and be a part of it. Makes it really fun. I have one last question on this topic before we transition into something else, but there's a deeper conversation we can have about women's role in society and all of that. So I'm going to give a quick perspective, and then I want to hear what your thoughts are on it based on soccer. So in the movies, typically in the past, movies have had male-centric characters that are usually the hero or something like that. Thankfully, that has been transitioning. We've gotten more female-centric characters. With that, when you watch sports, do you emulate or kind of reason with or identify yourself with any characters? like as a sports player. So for example, if I'm watching a game, I was always a midfielder. So if I'm watching Manchester United, I will say, okay, cool, I'm watching their midfield. I was like Mata. When Mata played for Manchester United, I thought he played my style. I was in love with him. I'm like, man, when I watch these games, I'm like him. I'm rooting for him. I kind of like emulate what he is. Do you have that type of perspective? Do you watch any sport in general and like kind of see, okay, hey, that player's like me. I kind of emulate that like you would in a movie. Like if you're watching a superhero movie, like you're watching Superman, like I'm like, okay, that's the main character. I can kind of emulate and see myself being that character.
Honestly, I've never really done that before. I think, is that something that guys do?
Maybe it is. I don't know.
I've never done that. I think, especially not in football, because I've not really played football before. Maybe in watching other sports, like the Olympics, for example, watching swimming, because I do like swimming. I swim a lot, so maybe I emulate people that swimming, but no, not specifically like that.
Do you do it in the movies at all in general?
I can't say I do.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, some people probably don't. That's cool. What do you?
I think I do. And it's interesting. I'm trying to pinpoint when I do and when I don't. Like, I think I can relate to players, or sometimes, for example, you were talking about your favorite soccer, football player, and saying, I just feel like he is humble and he cares about something bigger than himself. I think sometimes I get certain, I don't know, it just reads on people. I don't know if I just made that word up, but I feel like sometimes there are certain individuals that I either am watching on a sports team or in a movie, and I feel like I can relate. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, like relate or like identify with. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I do, but I don't necessarily know if it's like gender specific.
Yeah, that's good to know.
I think sometimes when I am watching football, I don't know. I don't necessarily think I'm cognizant about the fact that I'm like, oh yeah, I can relate to this player. I think I can sometimes watch it and say like, I could do that, or I could see myself doing this, or being competitive, or being a team player. And have sometimes related with male athletes in that way. And then in the movies as well, sometimes the main character will be a man. Sometimes it will be a female, which I always strongly relate to, like strong female leads, or, sometimes if there's a certain personality, I'm like, oh yeah, like I relate to that. I can see that. And that sounds like super arrogant of me. Not like in a strong leadership role. No, I think, I guess I'm just trying to say, I don't know if it necessarily depends. I don't know if it matters if it's a man or a woman lead. Like, I think sometimes there's certain qualities in certain players, or so.
Good.
Yes, to answer your question, yes.
Good.
I'm sorry, that was very long.
No, that's good. I mean, I'm the same as well. So like if I'm watching the U.S. women's national team play, like I'll say like, oh, cool, I see Rose Lavelle, and she's like very direct type of player. She like goes into challenges hard. Like I can resonate with that. Like, yeah, cool. She's like kind of a player like I would like to play. So I don't think it's for me gender specific as well, but I wanted to get your perspective since the sporting world in general has been male dominated for so long.
Yeah. I know, that is very interesting. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
again, very, very similar as well. I think it was interesting. As you guys were speaking, I was like, can I relate to anybody? And then I just realized it's because I perhaps don't see anybody like me at the moment, right, in the game. So I think, there is no players I'd be like, for example, but there's I think for me, then I was thinking about like what's happened in the past in terms of is any players I'm like, cool. But I mentioned Wayne Rooney, like Sam in the Park, for example, I might hit the cleanest volley. I'm going to feel as if I'm just going to say Wayne Rooney, for example, and you play in certain players, right? Back in the day, you'd say you're on like a mazy run, you're thinking you're Ronaldo, and you're just like, this is me, right? So I think that kind of links into that, and I think it's more to do with that side of stuff. And I was also thinking like, what I really appreciate sometimes is those footballers that have those interviews, which are just really like very relaxed, and they're just so calm. They're not media trained. I just love those ones that are just saying stuff. I think Haaland's had some hilarious ones, and he's just really outspoken, just doesn't really follow the media training where you meant to say, oh, it was a great game, today with 3 points, but like just runs like, yeah, we played terribly, like I'm just really bad. Like I just love that, because you just and I can really, and for me, if a footballer does that, I can really relate, and that approach makes it a bit more like, they're not like media trained. They're like, oh yeah, we were here at 3 points. They're more like, we can do better, and we apologize to the fans, and we want to do better and stuff. And I think there's one that because I think when Man United lost to, I think it was Sevilla, it might have been. I think it was Sevilla when the Europa League final, right?
Probably Sevilla. We always get beat by Sevilla.
It was on penalties.
Yeah.
It was really annoying. I remember like watching, and obviously really gutted this happens. It's a final. Like, it was just, I was really gutted. And it was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer actually. And I remember watching Marcus Rashford do the interview afterwards, and he was just like, yeah, we stood out there and we watched it because I don't want to feel this feeling again. And I thought to myself, like, I'm glad he's there because I don't want to feel that feeling again. Like, I want to ensure that I'm feeling bad. I want to know that he also does not want to feel that feeling again. It's not this glossy, like, yeah, we'll see what happens next season. We're sorry to the fans. I want him to feel like what we played out that wasn't bad. That's not what we wanted. That's not one for you guys. I hurt, we hurt, and I'm going to do better. And I think it's more kind of more, therefore I can relate, and I feel closer. I can relate to that kind of player. So, yeah, again, it's Marcus Rashford, isn't it? Obviously. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
That's awesome.
I've heard you say that a lot, though, that you don't want to feel that way again after losing a game. So it's nice to be able that the players can relate to their fans, because then you feel like you know them more. And
because that means they're playing, right? They're playing. They hurt like we hurt. It's not a case of like, pick up a paycheck on the next week. It's more like I'm gutted I lost and I want to be better. And I think that's really important. I think that kind of the emotion as well. That's probably why it's a beautiful game, and that's why we're here in football. The why we're so passionate as well is that you have players that play essentially for you, right, in the game, and you want to be able to kind of see them lift trophies. And if they don't, and like that's where you also get, you're more angry when they don't perform, because you know they can perform, and they're not. But then there's that whole rivalry between the fans, and where they kind of go, oh, you're doing it for you're doing it for money, aren't you? You just go away. You don't want to play. You're not playing for the club. And I think that kind of really resonates with the fans as well. So yeah. So just back to your question, like I said, it is about relating with more from an emotional level. And yeah, from the diversity perspective, there needs to be more people from British Asians, personally from my perspective, to be able to kind of actually physically relate and, for example, think about, oh, so-and-so could do this, and, that any one of us could just do this. So, yeah. Interesting question.
No, I'm glad. I'm happy to hear your answers with that too, and I agree. It needs to be more diverse of a sport, but then also just in general, we need to have more diversity, whether that's gender, whether that's religion, whether that's race, in different leadership roles in the world, but also in sports too. That makes it more fun for everybody. The more different perspectives you can have, the better.
Speaking of fun, should we play some games?
Let's do this. This will be fun for all of us.
I think we hope for all of us.
I don't know if it'll be fun for us.
So what would you like to do first? That's the question. What are you thinking, Andrew? What's your which one do we do first? Should we do predictions at the end?
Yeah.
Right, let's close. We'll close with that. But let's start with, so we know how we asked you guys favorite players here, right? We know obviously there's a lot of the English Premier League is host to a lot of players from outside of England. There's a lot of players, who have got amazing, fabulous names. What we would love you to do is we're going to show a couple of names, and we want you to read the name, pronounce it how you would pronounce it.
This is a cruel game.
Yeah, you want us to butcher the name?
Oh my goodness.
Don't worry, I've tucked a few in that Faisal may struggle with this one.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Really?
I read a couple. I was like, what's going on?
Oh no.
And you
Okay.
get two different accents as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
you
true.
do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's very true. I didn't think about that.
Okay.
So there will be 20 of them.
Oh wow.
And it'll go super quick. It'll be super easy. I will literally just show you the name on the screen, and you let us know how you think you say it, and we'll alternate. So I'll start with you first, and then you can go, and then back and forth.
All right.
Okay, let's
ready.
do this. Our first name is
Neymar.
nice. Okay, softball. That's good.
Easy
Are we
start.
doing
Good.
the same name or different names?
The same. We'll have you both
awesome. Okay.
both try to say them.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll have you do
Then
this
you
one
go
first.
Xavi.
Xavi. I know this one.
How do you say it, Faisal?
Xavi.
Xavi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Xavi. Oh, is that
Yep.
how you
Yeah.
pronounce it?
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
It's pretty good though.
Oh, I
You
thought it
guys
was
put a Z
Xavi.
on it, but it's Xavi.
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 Yeah.
Xavi.
Oh,
That's a
I'm
tough
so
one.
confident
Yeah,
about
yeah.
being so wrong.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a cruel game. Andres Andre Iniesta?
Okay.
Andre Iniesta.
Ooh, that was good.
That
sounded very
that
good.
sounded really good.
That was really nice.
Well done.
Andres Iniesta.
Was that right?
So
yeah.
you definitely got Iniesta, so it's well
Was
done.
it
Well done.
Andres?
It's Andres.
Andres
Andres.
Iniesta.
Andres.
Yes.
But Iniesta, yeah.
Yeah,
The
well
last name is
done.
usually the more important.
job.
Nice work.
Who went first?
Oh, that was
You
me.
did. Okay,
Yeah.
so all right.
Oh god.
This is a good game. I'm liking this.
He's a fun one.
I'm just gonna say it how
Yeah, go
it
for it.
reads. Sergio Busquets.
Sergio Baguette. No, I'm just kidding. Busquets.
Oh,
Very
well
nice.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Is it
really good.
Busquets?
Yep.
Yeah, Sergio Busquets.
Oh.
Oh,
Just add a little S on the end. You're good.
okay.
Very
Oh,
nice.
Interesting.
Nice,
I just
nice.
copycatted her.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Bastian Schweinsteiger. I don't know.
Bastian Schweinsteiger.
Wow, that's on point.
Let's
Nice.
clarify. There's no, but I've not showed you any of these beforehand.
No,
have I?
I've never seen these
Absolutely
names
never seen
before.
this.
I think that these names sound better in a British accent.
Most of the announcers do say them in a British
Unfair
accent.
disadvantage.
That's a tough one.
Bastian
That's-
Schweinsteiger.
Yeah, that's a German one.
German midfielder.
great.
Played for Man United previously and Bayern Munich.
Gerard Piqué.
Gerard Pique.
Very nice. Yep, you're right.
Piqué?
Gerard Piqué.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Obviously, you guys might have heard Gerard Piqué
Yeah.
in the Shakira.
The drama.
Oh
Oh,
yes.
is that Shakira's ex-husband?
Ex-husband, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that's probably where you
yes.
may have heard it. So
Yeah,
you might
I
have
like
got
that
it.
she
song.
got
I
it.
listened
I
to
was
it on
gonna
repeat.
Oh man. Cesc Fabregas?
Does he play for Man United?
Cesc
No.
Fabregas?
No.
Oh, I've heard of his name. I'm gonna pass on the first name.
Okay.
Fabregas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, you guys were both right. Cesc Fabregas.
Cesc Fabregas.
Cesc Fabregas?
Yeah, he's played for
Fabregas.
Arsenal.
Nice.
Very good player.
That's a very good player.
Okay.
Played for Chelsea, didn't he, as well? At
He
some
did.
point?
Number 4.
And currently, well, is he? I'm sure he's retired,
I'm sure he's retired by now.
but he played for a team in Spain. I think it was. Maybe.
I think you're right.
It might have been a Spain.
I think so.
Good player.
Yeah, I like Cesc a
Playmaker.
lot.
Great player.
He was one of my favorite players when he played.
Spanish.
Can you pronounce them?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
We'll have him do a few at the end too to see if he can actually get them.
Whose turn? Is it your turn?
Oh, is it my turn?
I don't know.
I think it's
I
your
don't know.
turn. It's your turn.
Okay. Fernandinho.
Fernandinho.
Yeah.
Yep, it's a solid one.
Nice.
Sounded out. That one's
That
about
is
right.
good. Is he
Fernandinho.
a Man City player? Very good. Part of the
Hate him.
part of the very good squad that won Premier Leagues a couple of times. So yeah,
Oh,
solid
interesting.
centre midfielder.
He is, but I hate anyone on Manchester City. So
Samuel Eto'o.
Samuel Ito.
Close.
Ooh.
Samuel Eto'o.
Samuel
Ooh.
Eto'o.
Eto.
Yeah.
Well, then
He's-
why add another O
Yes.
at the end?
He's a
Wait, well-
Cameroonian. Is it Cameroon? Cameroon. It is
I think
Cameroon.
Cameroon.
It might be a
Oh,
silent
nice.
O at the
Yeah.
end.
It must be
He's a-
silent. I don't know
Legend of
why.
the game.
Oh.
Played for Barcelona.
hmm
Also played for a Premier League team. Did he? I mean, no, I'm getting mixed up. But yeah, Samuel Eto'o. Legend of the game. Plays for Barcelona alongside Ronaldinho. That crazy La Liga Champions League winning team, actually.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Wow.
striker.
Yep. I don't know why he has the extra O on the end.
Yeah.
It's part of life. Good luck.
Your turn first, yeah.
Yep.
Pierre Emerick Aubameyang.
Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang?
You're close.
In the right direction, both of you.
Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
Aubameyang.
Obama.
Aubameyang.
Kind of like Obama, yeah.
Yeah.
Aubameyang.
Aubameyang.
Mhm.
It's actually quite a nice name
Yeah.
when you can pronounce it.
Gabonese. From Gabon.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Striker.
Cool player, but very dramatic.
Yeah. Very dramatic.
Interesting.
Was
Why is he dramatic?
quite a big name in the Arsenal squad. Dortmund, crazy goals, incredible from the German league. Really, really good for Dortmund. Moved to Arsenal, and it's got a bit rocky with Arteta. If you want to see more, check out the Amazon video.
So good.
It's so interesting.
What's the name of the series?
All or Nothing.
All or Nothing.
Arsenal.
Those series are so good. Oh my goodness.
Really?
And there's one that talks about how the manager, he's fairly new when Aubameyang is at Arsenal, but Arteta, who is still the manager there, had to manage his relationship with Aubameyang and actually ended up excluding him from the team, and then he left.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah, very good to watch.
Is it my turn?
You're first, yep.
Robert Lewandowski.
Robert Lewandowski.
Yeah, pretty close. Robert Lewandowski.
Lewandowski.
He's a Polish boy.
Lewandowski.
He's a
Yeah.
star striker. He's been at 2 German clubs, and now he plays for Barcelona, but he has been the golden boy of the Poland national team, which, well, is Polish, so very close to my heart.
There
But
we
the
go.
W's sound like V in Polish.
Lewandowski, yeah.
Okay.
Ah, yeah,
Okay.
they do. Leonardo Bonucci.
Leonardo Bonucci.
Yeah, both of you got it.
Spot on.
Right?
Ah,
Yep, perfect.
I got it. Yeah.
Nice. A plus plus.
Yeah, he'd be
Yes.
very proud.
Yeah, Juventus player, Italian.
Ah.
England was an interesting one. He actually scored the goal, I'm pretty sure.
In the Euros, right?
In the Euros.
Mhm.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, that was Chiellini that pulled Saka back, right?
Yeah, it was Chiellini. Mhm.
But yeah, great player.
That's just unfair.
This one is
It's a hard one.
extremely hard.
Is that
actually.
not a typo?
Is that
you would think it is. But that is how he spells both of his names.
Henrik Mkhitaryan?
Henrik Kitarian.
Got the right sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mika.
If you usually like blur it together, it sounds better, but Henrik Mkhitaryan.
Ah.
Well, that doesn't sound anything like I was expecting it to sound.
He used to play for Manchester United.
That plays for Inter Milan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some great goals. There's actually one goal. Do you remember that one goal for Man United he scored? I think everyone just plays that one goal back where I think he's like outside. No, he kind of spins round. It's like a bit of a mini half scorpion kind of like kick around.
Yes.
It's really good. I think it's
Whoa.
against Spurs, I think it is. It's a really good goal.
Yeah, that is a good
Yeah,
one.
check that out.
He's a good guy. I like him.
Moussa Dembele.
Moussa Dembele?
You had it right.
Yeah.
Moussa Dembele.
Nice.
Dembele.
Mhm. Yep.
Nice.
Oh, this is a fun boy. Goalkeeper.
Oh, wow.
Wojciech? I think I tried to say all of that all at once. Anyway, okay. This is cruel. This is a cruel name.
This is a hard name.
Wojciech Shensi. You try to send it out and then it just doesn't work.
This is not a sound. Right.
Wojciech Szczeni.
Close. Do you know how to say this one?
It's making me double think.
Okay. All right. Let's hear it.
I know Szczesny, so his second name's Szczesny, 100%.
Szczesny,
So
yep.
it's Szczesny.
Szczesny.
That
I think it's
sounds like-
Wojciech.
Wojciech. Sounds like a B.
Yeah, Wojciech.
Yep.
Wojciech.
Wait, let me see that
Wojciech
again.
Szczesny.
Wojciech Szczesny.
Yeah, it's a Polish guy as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Wojciech?
Szczesny, yeah.
Wojciech Szczesny?
Yeah.
It sounds like almost a mix of a
Wojciech?
B and a V.
Wojciech
His
Szczesny.
first name.
Wojciech.
Wojciech Szczesny.
Well, that just doesn't look
Yeah,
correct.
that's a funky one, but really good goalkeeper.
My
Very good
goodness.
goal.
Used to play for Arsenal,
Mm.
now for Juventus.
Not for Juventus, yeah. This is a throwback.
There's a funky character mixed in there.
Oh, yeah. What language is
I
that?
don't know what that is.
Gylfi Sigurdsson. Just go for it.
Gylfi Sigurdsson.
Fairly close.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know what his nationality is. Is it Denmark?
Finish.
Finnish. You're right.
Oh,
You're right.
is that like a D with a
So it's Sigurdsson.
Sigurdsson.
Yeah, Sigurdsson.
Gylfi Sigurdsson.
Gylfi Sigurdsson.
Oh.
Yeah, so you guys had it pretty much right.
He's retired, is he?
I think he is now.
He left
Mhm.
Everton, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and
Yeah.
for Tottenham.
Tottenham as well. Was really good at Tottenham, actually.
It's the Polish guys, man. I'll tell you.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Jacob? But no. Tashin.
What you just said to me.
Tazenchowski? Jozowski. Just say it fast.
I don't know if it's Jacob or something else, but Jacob Blasikowski.
But is that a T?
It's an L.
It's an L?
It's an L, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how to say it?
Blaskowski?
Pretty close. Yeah.
Actually, this one I actually don't know that well.
Jacob Blaskowski.
Blashowski.
Is it Jacob?
Jacob.
Jacob.
I was going to say Jacob.
Oh,
Yep. Jacob
nice.
Blaskowski.
I haven't had him for ages. No, we.
Yeah, he was best probably when he played for Borussia Dortmund. But I don't know if he's retired or not. He's quite old. He's probably in his late 30s now. But a Polish player as well. Very good for the national team. I don't even know this one quite well, especially that first name.
Anatoly Timoshchuk.
Anatoly Timashuk? Timashuk?
Do you know how to say this one?
Yeah, Anatoly Timoshuk, right?
Timoshuk, yeah, that's all I know.
Timoshuk.
Is it Anthony?
Yeah, and
Anatoly?
and it's making me double think because you hear commentators say
Yeah.
them, right? And
Yeah.
you're just like, otherwise, if I didn't hear them, I probably would have been in the same boat. But
Yeah.
Maybe the commentators are saying them incorrectly.
They might be.
Yeah, maybe
they
they
honestly
are,
do sometimes
yeah,
to pronounce, right? Because sometimes
absolutely.
Pulisic
Yeah.
and Pulisic.
Because
Some of
all
them say-
you English commentators say it
Yeah.
weird.
What is it? Is
Pulisic.
it Pulisic?
Pulisic. I guess you can even say Pulisic. It's Pulisic. Christian Pulisic.
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 Oh yeah, we say different.
Christian Pulisic. Yeah.
It's just pronunciation.
Yeah.
I
I
think.
It
It
know.
changes.
I think it is.
Yep. One of my favorite players of all time, midfielder, played for Arsenal.
Mesut Ozil?
Mesut Ozil.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Yours is a little closer.
Ozil?
Yep.
Ozil,
Mesut
yeah.
Ozil.
Mesut Ozil. See, that's much
Say it a little quicker. It sounds nice.
Yeah.
nicer,
Mesut Ozil.
like shorter. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You guys say it later. Mesut Ozil.
Mesut Ozil.
All right. This is the final. Yeah. Nasty
Is
name.
this Greek?
It is.
Oh my goodness.
Center back.
Socrates Papasthatopoulos.
Can I just second what she said?
No. No.
That's how this game works.
Socrates? Papasthatopoulos? I got stuck on the second TH. Papasthatopoulos. Papasthatopoulos.
Papas. Was it? Sorry, one second. I read it in my head and then I got it. Socrates Papastapolopoulos.
Yeah.
Pas-
That's pretty good.
Papastapolopoulos.
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 It's just like, you know, with like a list.
Yeah.
I don't actually know his first name. I thought it was Socrates.
I thought Socrates. Socrates.
Socrates. Socrates
Socrates?
Papastopoulos.
Socrates. You know, like the Greek.
Like
Socrates.
the, yeah. Like
Socrates
the,
Papastopoulos.
Well,
Socrates.
does
But
this
'cause
game
Ollie's
even
top.
count if you don't? You're both
Yeah, I think
disagreeing
that this
on the
is-
Putting the whole,
Yeah, it doesn't even
the whole
count.
game null and void because we
Yes.
can't pronounce it.
It is,
Yes.
yeah. This,
I agree.
yeah, I can't. The German or the Greece guy.
He used to play with just Socrates on his back. Plays for Arsenal. He used to play for Arsenal. at one
He did.
point, didn't he? Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? He'd have to have that like
I was gonna
down
say.
the back, down
the
the,
way
side,
around.
all the way around the front. It would.
And you pay by the letter nowadays as well for football shirts.
Oh
so
my
that would be
goodness.
Wow.
expensive.
You really?
Do you
Yeah,
actually?
UK, you pay by letter. Yeah. What's that?
That's
Do you not-
weird.
You pay by letter.
You just pay for
You might
whatever
as well
name.
put your surname on mine.
Yeah.
It's shorter.
See, it's more expensive now because there's more letters.
That's so interesting.
That's
We don't.
wild.
You
we
also
don't.
pay extra for badges. So if you want like a Premier League badge on the like official Premier League badge on it and stuff.
So what if you're buying like an Arsenal kit or a Manchester United kit?
Yeah, so you'll be playing, right? And then if you want to get like an additional like Premier League logo, you know the kind of the gold and like not unfortunately not gold yet, but we'll see. You know, the blue, you're the blue kind of Premier League logo that you get on as additional cost.
So it doesn't come on it by default,
No,
even
no,
though that's
no,
like
no.
the actual jersey.
You just get like a plain shirt, like it's like a plain shirt, right? It's just
What
like a
in the
plain
world?
Man United top.
So even have the
it's like-
sponsor on the front of it.
It has, obviously the sponsor. It has a sponsor in the front of it, and then it has like the stuff on the left hand side, which is like I think what it is at the moment for like the Man United team at the moment. And then you pay extra. Say for you want the Champions League one, for example, for next season. You can have the one Champions League. You can have like the Premier League. Then you can get letters in the name as individual letter by letter, and also you get the number as well. So
Wow, it's very different in the US.
you just buy it.
you buy if you buy the season kit, it comes with whatever league they're in, so it has that patch automatically on it. Same with like the Champions League. If you're buying the Champions League version, it would have it on it. If you want to customize it, it's just like a flat fee for adding customization, not per letter.
Oh, that's per letter.
Yeah. It's just nickel and dime you here.
There we
Holy
go.
Cow.
We should get all our kits to the US by the sounds of it.
Yeah, let me know. I'll bring them over next time. All right, we have another activity that we'll all partake in, and this is not as difficult as pronouncing names.
Oh, thank goodness.
To actually get it correct, it might be. So we are currently in the middle, toward the end of the Premier League season. So we are going to try to make predictions on where all of the teams will finish. Yes. And it's tough because there are a lot of teams and they change every year. And I don't know if I could even give you like the full slate without looking at it of the teams. So I have all of the teams and their logos. So I'll show you guys the slew of logos and you tell us where you think they'll stand. And then Faisal and I will also do this and tell you what we think the table will look like at the end of the season.
Interesting. All right.
We'll keep this nice and quick. Let's do this.
Okay. But I don't know where they currently stand.
Which is okay.
Apart from the top four,
I was
maybe.
Gonna say,
Top four, nice. That's good to know that.
Okay.
We should do top 4.
I was going to say, should we do top 4? Because I don't know whether people, you'd have to predict where Crystal Palace would go, and I don't think they get relegated. I don't think they're going to hit top 4.
That's a good point.
You're probably going to say that 8th to 11th.
Actually,
maybe.
And who cares about the middle of the table anyway?
So
Let's do the top 4 and the bottom 4.
Yeah,
that sounds
makes
great.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do that. Let's start with top 4 at the moment,
I don't
right?
mind.
First. All right. I think that...
Let's start with who you think is going to be the 4th, and then who you think will win the league.
I
So
see.
start 4th.
Okay. I'm going to go with Liverpool. I don't know why. And then West Ham. And then Manchester United. And then Arsenal.
Decent.
Okay. Cool.
And mine is number 4, Newcastle.
Okay.
Okay. Very nice.
It's totally random. Number 3, Man United.
Okay.
Number 2, Arsenal. Sorry. No, I don't want to offend anyone, but number 1,
Hey.
Man City.
Wow.
Okay. We might have a...
It's pretty
That's pretty good.
it's pretty solid, at least how the table currently sits.
That's what I was going to say. That
That's
could work.
awesome.
So Faisal, give us your top 4.
Top 4, I'm going to say... it's an interesting one, because my thought was probably Newcastle. Well, that's what I was going to say. But my top 4... it's either United or... Okay, let's back myself. Newcastle 4th. We'll go for Man City. We'll go for United 3rd. I reckon Arsenal are going to win it, so I'm going to go Arsenal first. They'll probably keep a bit of run of form. They're maybe not in the greatest form right now, but I think they'll just grind out those 1-0s, those 1-1s, and I feel like Man City got one slip up in there. I don't know what it is, even though Arsenal got like a harder run in, but I just feel like that might be potentially. So I'm going to go with Arsenal, then City, and then United, and then Newcastle. So that's my top 4.
Nice.
I will say, like you, I'm going to have Newcastle 4th. Because Tottenham suck and they're not going to fix their season to get back into 4th. I don't want to see Manchester United drop to 4th, so that's why Newcastle's just going to stick there. Then I will have Manchester United in 3rd because the gap between City and anybody behind them is too much to catch up in the next couple weeks. So then City will be 2nd and Arsenal will be 1st. I'd rather see Arsenal win. I hate City, so I wish City would drop further down, but they won't, so Arsenal hopefully will pull through. That's the top 4 as I will see it.
Now
It seems like you kind of knew some of the places already. Very nice.
Yeah.
I think that might be from the fact that I'm always like, oh, look, it's like a Newcastle slip points this weekend.
No.
Spurs slip.
I have my own interests.
You have your own interest.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
I
Love
love it.
Okay.
That's awesome. That's right.
Never heard you say that.
Great. Yeah. She's found her own interest in football.
But the bottom 4, I don't know. I think I'm going to have a closer
go for the
look
bottom
at the
3.
teams.
Bottom 3. So the bottom 3 will get relegated.
Yeah, who is going to get the boot down to the championship?
I think wolves.
Okay, so for those listening, that is crazy because that's where I'm from, and a lot of my, a lot of my family members are big Wolves fans. So apologies.
I didn't even know that. That's funny. Love it. Okay.
Nottingham Forest. And I'm just picking random ones. Let's pick Southampton.
Okay, it's not
Nice.
bad. That's right.
Interesting.
Rachel, what you got?
Okay, so I'll say third to last, Everton. Second, Chelsea.
We would love that.
We would love that. And this is the season.
If it's gonna happen, this is it. This is the season. I hope that comes true.
And then last, maybe Forest.
Nottingham Forest. Nice.
Okay, nice. I mean, I'd love that to happen. Mine would be I'm joking. I can't say.
We love that too.
Let's go Forest. I think Forest will be probably bottom. Leicester, unfortunately, with their current shape, unfortunately, I don't want Leicester to go down because obviously Premier League winners. I think it'd be tough on them from again a few seasons, but their team has been ripped out. But it's just nice to. And Leicester's always been like a staple in the Premier League recently. And then it's difficult because I think it's really tight then. I'm going to go with probably Bournemouth maybe. Bournemouth potentially. Or Bournemouth are doing pretty well. Let's go Everton.
Nice.
Let's go Everton, Nottingham Forest, and Leicester City.
That was actually the three that I was going to select as well. I would have Everton as my least likely to get relegated of the three. Then I would have Leicester as well. Unfortunately, I'd also like to see them stay. And then Forest at the very bottom.
Nice.
We'll see if it happens. We'll reconvene and check in on a podcast on our predictions in the future.
That'd be cool.
All right, well, that's our episode. Thanks for joining us, ladies.
Yeah, thank you.
What are your closing thoughts?
Oh, thank you so much for having us on. This is really fun. I feel like I learned a little bit and, I think it was really fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been quite eye-opening. Learnt a lot. It's been a really nice experience.
Yeah, it's been great having you guys on. It's great to get your side of it, get your opinion on it as well. Like refresh, we're in it, right? So it's always nice to get the other side of it. So also you can now see why we're so infatuated with the game. So that's why we're in there.
I also want to apologize to all of those football players. Names I butchered today. I'm really sorry. And that's it.
As am I.
You did much better.
All right. Well, and
great.
Thank you, listeners. We appreciate all of you out there for hanging out with us and having such a fun episode. Faisal and I will be parting, and we will be back, but across the pond from one another once again for future episodes. So make sure to join us, hang out, subscribe so that you're staying tuned for all of the latest episodes, which come out bi-weekly wherever you get your podcast. But we will see you in the next episode of Nutmegged. Until then, Faisal, sign us off.
Peace out, guys. Enjoy yourselves. Have a good one. Bye.